So let's we call John Jameson from Technology University of Dublin to present on how the HEInnovate could be useful tools for transformation. Please, time is yours, John.
I'm just going to try and share my screen now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, are we seeing that?
Yes.
See the presentation?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. So, salam alaikum, salamat sorry. I'm going to pick up on a number of the items and issues that both Nadine and Volker have spoken about earlier. What I would like to do is look at the use of the HEInnovate tool, which we have used within the GITA project. But before doing so, I've got to put it in a context, and that context is the Entrepreneurial University. Universities worldwide are being challenged to evolve and to make a larger contribution towards both economic, social, and cultural development of their locations. We've already heard from Nadine about the human capital score that governments are looking at as to the contribution that universities and higher education institutions can make towards the development of their locations, both local, national, and indeed international. So the context with which I'm going to talk about the HEInnovate is really about how we create those engines of growth, engines of development, which are effectively the university and the higher education institutions. The GITA project itself is the mechanism which we were working on for the last two and a half years to try and achieve that objective. The GITA project itself had a number of very simple and clear objectives. It was to create an orientation, an entrepreneurial orientation within the HEIs that we're working with, and to help those organizations create what we call an enabling infrastructure to support the pedagogy and the experiential learning available to students within those organizations. So the capacity building was a key element of GITA, of the Growing Indonesia project, as was the ability to improve the capacity of career-ready graduates, giving them a more focused program of study and learning, and also to provide them with a real-world experience where possible. Specifically, the objectives of the Growing Indonesia project was to create a physical and a cooperative entity within the universities. This could be as a growth hub, an incubation unit, a department, a school, or indeed at the university level itself. But it was to create an enabling infrastructure in which students and staff can contribute effectively towards the development of solutions really for their locality or for the national interest. Key to this was the idea of integration with local enterprise partners, a key learning resource and a key learning opportunity for both students and staff. Nadine has already spoken about the entrepreneurial learning outcomes, but again, that is a key part to the way in which we were to hope that the universities would evolve and include an entrepreneurial mindset within the experience of their students and their staff. So the Growth Hub had effectively three main components that we were working with. One was to try and facilitate and encourage a university enterprise cooperation, looking externally outside the university for opportunities for students and staff to learn, to engage, to research. Also to include entrepreneurial learning outcomes and entrepreneurial learning pedagogy and curriculum within the learning experience of students. And as a result, to try to improve the employability of graduates. The HEInnovate has been a tool that's been used in over 1,100 universities worldwide. Universities trying to ensure that their programs are attuned to the needs of their locality and their region, but also to create a value that's important for their students and their staff, and indeed for the university as a whole. So we're going to talk about the tool and how it is the preparation, foundational stage for building an entrepreneurial mindset, as Nadine has mentioned. You may not believe, but there's over 100 different definitions of an entrepreneurial university that's within the literature. They cover many aspects of many particular interests of the academic writers who've developed them. But there are two definitions which I particularly like. And one definition by Professor Alan Gibb, who unfortunately passed away at the end of 2019, I think is particularly relevant for what we're looking at today. Alan Gibb, who was a key developer of the HEInnovate tool, felt that an entrepreneurial universities are designed to empower staff and students to demonstrate enterprise, innovation, and creativity in research, teaching, and the pursuit and use of knowledge across boundaries or disciplines. They contribute effectively to the enhancement of learning in a societal environment characterized by high levels of uncertainty and complexity. And they are dedicated to creating public value via a process of open engagement, mutual learning, discovery, and exchange with all stakeholders in society, local, national, and international. That definition, to me, I think captures everything we need to understand about the challenge being faced by universities in this day and age. Governments are looking to universities to drive both economic development, social development, cultural development, and they're looking at universities as being catalysts for this change. A simpler definition was offered by Professor Gibb's colleague, Professor Paul Hannon, and there are similarities to it, but it's a little bit more succinct. It says, an institution that creates an environment within which the development of an entrepreneurial mindset and behavior are embedded, encouraged, supported, incentivized, and rewarded. Both definitions try to identify the basis of an entrepreneurial organization, and they identify an entrepreneurial mindset as being a precursor, a foundation to the development of an infrastructure that enables the organization to deliver the value it needs to both its students, its staff, its external partners, and indeed the country at large. Within the entrepreneurial concept, there is this idea of innovation. And going back as far as Peter Drucker, these concepts, these meta constructs were brought together in I think, a very interesting way that connects them. An entrepreneurial approach requires innovation. It requires an innovative mindset, and vice versa. An innovative organization challenges and uses the entrepreneurial concepts of effectual logic that Nadine has mentioned earlier. Within the literature, there's one item, there's one idea that I think jumps out again and again as a way of providing an insight into what we mean by an entrepreneurial mindset. And it's this idea of value. Sometimes when we speak to colleagues from different disciplines, they can be a little bit reticent about this idea, this sense of entrepreneurial being the preserve of business or management or economics. And really, we've got to break through that to identify or to establish that an entrepreneurial mindset is of interest and of use to any discipline, to any part of an organization, management, staff, administration, students. But what the key concept is that of value. How can an organization, a department, a program create value? Indeed, students are continually asking the value of their awards, the value of their degree. Employers are asking, what is the value of this student that we are now employing on graduation? Governments are asking about the value of the organization to the national effort. So value is an interesting concept to try and identify how a discipline may make use of an entrepreneurial mindset to create a pedagogy, a curriculum, and indeed a learning opportunity, learning experience for both their students and staff. Drucker, as far back as 1985, emphasized that the entrepreneurial individual is a person able to drive innovation, whereas innovation is enhanced by people who can think, behave, and act in an entrepreneurial manner. And that really, I think, goes to the heart of what we're trying to instill within our graduates. The ability to think, behave, and act in an entrepreneurial manner. The distinctive principles of the Entrepreneurial University is that it empowers all staff, management, students, administrators, and all students, external stakeholders, and indeed the communities in which they're embedded. It challenges them to make effective and meaningful change in the world around them, and does so by directly engaging in such change activities, change through its own activities. I would go back to this idea of a catalyst for change. The university is in a prime position to act as a catalyst for change within its locality. It does challenge, however, the existing status quo of the organization. Universities, especially large universities, have grown large by the use of particular mechanisms, particular structures, systems that are very difficult to change unless there's a willingness and a commitment at senior level to make that change. What the Entrepreneurial University tries to do is ask about the creation of organizational DNA, which enables the organization to act in an entrepreneurial and an innovative fashion. Indeed, there's a large challenge facing universities worldwide, and that is to reconceptualize their format, their remit, to be more of an entrepreneurial orientation. In short, an entrepreneurial university is one that has entrepreneurial and innovative staff working within an enabling infrastructure, not barriers, but an infrastructure that enables staff to give of their best, and by creating value defined not by the university, but by its stakeholders, its students, its external partners, its employers, its funders. The greatest challenge, therefore, is how universities become entrepreneurial and how to create an effective environment for developing entrepreneurial capacities. And that is the challenge which the HEInnovate tries to help university management with. The mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, is a precursor or a foundation to the development of an appropriate organizational culture, systems, structures, and indeed individual practice. The idea of an enabled university or an enabled organization, I think, is a way of summarizing what the challenge is. Creating an entrepreneurial university involves institutional change, structural change, and indeed cultural change. And it involves reimagining the interaction or the interplay between the traditional university activities of research, engagement, curriculum, and pedagogy. And that is what the Growth Hub and indeed the Growing Indonesia project has as its core. HEInnovate itself is a simple tool, and it supports the university on its journey towards this entrepreneurial and innovative objective. It supports staff and students and indeed external partners in the transformation process. And it tries to create an inclusive environment in which staff, management, and external partners can be involved in setting the agenda, setting objectives through inclusive discussion, decision-making, action planning, and implementation. And the tool itself is not a prescriptive tool, but rather it gives the data, it provides us with the data on which we can have these types of conversations, these types of discussions, and these types of decision-making activities. So who is it for? It's open for all universities worldwide, and it's free of charge. There's over 1,100 universities using the HEInnovate as a mechanism to help them become more orientated towards an entrepreneurial mindset. It's available in all EU languages, and through the Growing Indonesia project, we got it translated into Indonesian. And it's intentionally open and flexible so that it can be adapted to the use of the university. It's not a straitjacket, or it's not a one-size-fits-all. It facilitates discussion, and it facilitates individual university goal setting. It allows, so what does it do? It allows individuals to assess their HEIs, their universities, in a systematic way, and it diagnoses strengths and weaknesses across 8 different dimensions or areas using a set of statements. The statements are used once we have a composite to open up discussion and debate about how the organization may progress in its entrepreneurial and innovative agenda. And over time, it allows us to contrast and compare progress. It provides access to high quality learning materials, case studies, mentors, and advisors. Through the HEI website, HEInnovate website, there's a wealth of resources available to registered members, both individual members and university members. Material that can be used in class, materials that can be used as discussion documents for project team meetings, etc. So what is it? It is an initiative of both the European Union and the OECD, developed in 2013. And indeed, there are a number of instances within Indonesia where HEInnovate has been applied, I think, usefully. So there's expertise within the country about how it's used and the effect it has had. And there's a number of colleagues, academic colleagues within Indonesia that have done some very interesting research using HEInnovate, both as a mechanism to reflect on the development of an entrepreneurial mindset, and also as an organizational change mechanism within a university. I'll refer to those later on in the session. The HEInnovate was launched in 2013 as a guiding framework for universities and higher education institutions that wanted to pursue this innovative and entrepreneurial agenda. As I said, it's free, and it's a reflection tool that allows management and indeed staff and students and within the university to reflect on the perception of the university's ability within an entrepreneurial direction. The tool itself has 8 different dimensions or areas with which it tries to collect the thoughts and views and reflections of participants. And in addition to the surveying element, it provides a wealth of information to guide and support and advise further practice. So how is it used? It can be used individually. And again, I would encourage people to go on to the HEI website and explore. You can't break it. So go on and explore it and see what's involved in it. Its value, however, is as a group exercise. And this can be done at a department level, a school level, a faculty level, or indeed it can be done at the university level. I would argue that a university level perspective gives, I think, a better sense of what the tool can do, and the development of an entrepreneurial structure and infrastructure works best. So, but it can operate quite effectively at the sub-levels within the organization. Anyone can set up a group on HEInnovate and invite others to complete the self-assessment as part of that group. So we could have university, faculty, school, department, or indeed a group of colleagues who want to just assess how they're going to develop their entrepreneurial mindset within the context of a program or a department. I think a key element in the use of the tool is to include external partners, organizations, businesses that we as a university work with on a regular basis. Their insight and their contribution is hugely valuable. I would also include both current students and alumni within the data set, if possible. insight they provide, very, very interesting and useful for an organization trying to make decisions about the direction they want to go. This is a screenshot from the website, and as you can see, there's 8 dimensions. There were 7 dimensions. On the digital dimension was added most recently, and it's available in Indonesian as well. So please go onto the site and just play with it and see what use you can make of it. Okay, what is the methodology of application? It's quite simple. Aideen mentioned in her talk about the support of senior management. Absolutely critical. An initiative like developing an entrepreneurial mindset, or an entrepreneurial department, or indeed an entrepreneurial university, is hugely dependent on the support of senior management, the commitment and support of the senior management that this is the direction we want to go. So once that is obtained, an overall project team is usually created. A workshop, a HEInnovate workshop, again prepares participants within the university for what is to come and outlines the tasks and activities required. The development of mailing lists of students, staff, management, external partners, public, etc., is the next step. Inviting partners to participate is a quite simple exercise. Once the data or the participants complete their survey instrument, the data is collected and results generated for discussion by HEInnovate itself. At that point, we now have raw material for very useful discussions and decisions that can be made about actions which we need to take to implement the tasks that we set for ourselves. And one, I think, important element, sometimes lost, is that the use of the HEInnovate is iterative. It works best when we repeat survey a number of times over a period of time to find out the progress and to enable us to compare different activities and how they're progressing against baseline. In terms of the methodology, this is a graphic of, I think, the simple way in which it's operated. The key grouping within this is the representative groups would meet to consider, analyze, and to develop the action plans. Those action plans can be as simple or as extensive as the group wishes. The idea being that we are moving towards putting in place the infrastructure or the facilities to enable our students, our staff, and indeed our administration and our management to become more entrepreneurial within their area of activity. The structure of the tool itself is made up of 8 dimensions, or 8 areas of inquiry, of which there are 42 scale statements, which is very, very simple to enable the participants to respond to. So there tends to be a very, very high completion rate of the tool once people engage with it. The analysis, there's many, many different forms of analysis you can undertake with the data, and indeed all data is exportable into SPSS or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever statistical techniques that you're interested in. Sorry, I should say, once a survey is completed, the system will generate a series of recommended resources to support the next stage in the development. It will give you case study material of organizations that have gone through and have a similar profile to what you're presenting, and it will give you guidance notes and ideas about how you could pursue the next stage in the HEInnovate orientation journey. Perhaps one of the most useful elements that I find to facilitate discussion is this spider chart or radar chart, which is very simply a gap analysis, which allows you to classify the different categories of respondents: academics, students, administrators, general management, external partners, etc., on any of the dimensions, and within those dimensions, any of the statement areas. So you can identify how an organization is perceived on any one of these dimensions. And if, obviously, as a gap analysis, you're now looking at whether you need to undertake tasks or activities to close that gap. So it facilitates discussion, and it facilitates the decision-making about the direction in which the department, the school, or the university would like to go to improve its score within the HEInnovate index. These are some of the
make it within 2 minutes.
Okay, these are some of the elements within the dimensions. I'm just going to flash through them very quickly. You can pick out a couple, and they're quite specific, and they give rise to I think very interesting discussions once we get the data back. Okay, and there are 8 different dimensions to it. Post survey. It's important that the project team meet, discuss the results of the tool, identify actions, and develop an action plan with approvals, timescales, responsibilities, and resource allocations. And this again ties in with the GITA, the Growing Indonesia approach, and the Growth Hub. It provides structure, and it provides a direction in which action plans can be implemented towards specified goals. So in summary, it's used globally. It's used by, again, a large number of universities worldwide. It is very effective in supporting the development of an entrepreneurial mindset, but it does require commitment of senior management to support the activities. It does involve work, but it is very, very worthwhile mechanism to use if that's what your intent is. It's free, and as I said, there's many people with experience of its use. Even within Indonesia, there's my colleague from the GITA project, Dr. Dodi, and there's a very interesting article by Novella et al. That has been produced in 2020, which I think gives a direction by which the HEInnovate tool can be applied within a input process output model, which I think universities and departments might find very excuse me, very useful to engage with. So again, I would recommend you to have a look at those 2 articles, and you get a sense of how it's being used locally within Indonesia. Okay, thank you very much.
So